All right, guys, for this next one, we're going to be taking this kind of cold, dreary day in New York and turning it into a bright, bustling, warm sunset with really vibrant trees, just to make it a nice, pleasant memory. So let's go ahead and start with our background. Command-J to jump it up to a new layer. I'm going to turn off that background layer. And first we need to go through and we need to make some adjustments. So when we look over at our sample, you can see that we've added some curves as well as a hue saturation adjustment layer and sky replacement. So let's go ahead and first try to improve this a bit with some curves. So in order to do this, if I come and I choose my select sky, you'll be amazed to see just how good of a job it does selecting the sky overall. Now, it's not perfect. It's not getting absolutely everything. So I could come through here and try to use my wand tool or my quick selection. So I'm going to hit the W key, come over here, hold down my Option key, and let's just remove some of these things that are not actually sky. In fact, anything that's not sky, I'm just going to paint over here with my Option key held down. And that does a pretty good job. You can see it really got most of it out of there, although it's keeping the trees. And so now I need to go ahead and make a new curves adjustment layer. But because I have this selection, when I click on my adjustment layer and go to curves, you're going to notice that it creates a curves adjustment layer, but it is selected only the sky, because that's what I selected in the previous step. So if I were to go and start adjusting or bumping up the curves, adjusting their brightness values, you'll notice that's affecting the sky, which is not what I want. So I want to invert this mask. So I'm going to select the mask, click on it, invert with Command-I. Command-I, you see it pops up here, and now that curves layer is only going to affect what's not the sky, so anything painted white, which is the rest of the building. So I could come in here, and usually I'm going to start by playing with the darks and the brights a little bit, maybe push this up, brighten the image just a little bit. The highlights are getting a little too bright, so I'm going to come up to the bright highlights area, maybe bring those back down so that the buildings are still plenty visible. That's pretty good. And I could also maybe come in here and just raise the overall dark tones just a little bit. So just a little bit of a bump in the low dark areas and pulling down the over brightened highlights. So that's a good place to start. So we've been able to tweak the contrast just a little, but we also want to add a hue and saturation layer. So I'm going to come back to my adjustment layers and add a hue/saturation. You're going to see that gets created, and it's only affecting the hue and saturation of everything except for the sky. So I can grab this saturation and push that up, and you see those trees really become green. It really starts to punch through and get a lot more vivid. If I turn that hue and saturation off, that now we've really brought up the saturation of the trees. And of course, we could play with that brightness and darkness a little bit more, but I like it. And then we can go through now and do our standard edit. Make sure we have the correct layer selected, edit, and sky replacement. And now it's going to do its best to replace that whole sky. So when we pick from all of our amazing sunsets, we get a great amazing sunset. I'm going to come down here and hit OK, and that creates that sky replacement group. Now we've got the hue and saturation affecting everything except for the sky. If I were to move this sky up to the top above everything else, you can see that now those hue and saturation layers are not affecting it. So I do want the sky to be behind them so that the sky and the buildings are showing up right here. Now, this sky replacement layer is covering up the background just a little bit, so I probably want to come down to that. And I'm going to paint, just use my brush tool to paint with white over this building. So, and as I paint with white over that building, now anything that's happening there with that accidental sky replacement is no longer affecting that building. So that's looking a lot better, and I'm really getting to where this image is a huge improvement. Here's the original, and here's our new sky replacement on a beautiful sunny day. Using, again, hue and saturation, curves, as well as sky replacement, now we have made a big difference on what our image looks like, going from this to this. Much better memory.